Hi guys, and welcome back to this video tutorial series. In this video we will be learning how to develop a basic tower defense game for Windows 8 and Windows 2. And this will be achieved using Construct 2 game engine like what we started in the first video. Okay, let's start creating a new project. We'll pick a new empty project. Let's zoom out, control and scroll down. Let's just start naming this video Tower Defense Video Tutorial Series 2 out of 6. Version 1, description. This is a video tutorial series. Anyhow, Tower Defense. Or let's have the ID as 1, author Muhammad, and here's my email. Okay. Now the first layout, let's just have it as a default. Window size, like we discussed before, it's 1280 by 720. But for this video, I'm gonna just have it as 1024. You can just keep on changing as you want. But as I told you, for this video, I'm gonna change it to this one. Yeah. Okay. Letterbox scale. Let's just keep the letterbox scale for now. Retina display never off. I think let's just have a quick save. I already have video 2 folder, so video 2 version 2, that's what I call it. Let's save it as Tower Defense. Okay. Now what we will really need here, I'm gonna create a tower defense game that would have a specific grid, and there will be a path that that the enemies will be passing through. We'll just create one basic tower, one enemy, and we'll just show you how you can go through the path. Now, let's name this as level 1. Have the event sheet as level 1 event sheet. And let's start adding our objects. Insert a new object. Let's have a sprite to begin with. We'll have it outside the layout. Open. Yeah. Video materials. Let's just have the tower for now. Let's change it to 32 by 32. Actually, I'd like to have it 64 by 64. From here, we can rename it to basic tower. Okay, and just let's have the layers before we start building stuff. Let's call this the background. Let's add another layer. Let's call it the play area. For the background, we'll be adding the grid where you can possibly be able to build or where you cannot really build. So I have this grid ready. Okay, it's over here. You can just click on view, there's snap to grid, and there's show grid. Now you can see that the grid is really small. Let's just change it to 64 by 64. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't update. You have to just click somewhere around first, then click back. This will have it updated. And let's resize this so it works on a little bit more. Let's remove the snapping for now, so we will able to. We don't want to snap the grid for now. Let's just scale it a bit. Yep. And now we can start snapping to grid. Yeah. Let's create something simple. First, let's rename this to grid background. Here's the first grid we have. Copy and paste wherever you want to have the other one. Let's copy and paste again. Let's have the third one over here. We can rotate this by fixing this one. Okay. It's not really precise. I think you can type it from here. Yeah, here's a 90. Let's have it like this. So here's the path. If we take off the show grid, here's the path where the enemies would be walking. Let's save this. Now we have the grid ready. We need also to add the start area and the end area. So right click, insert a new object. Let's have a sprite sheet. Let's have this start area open. I have this enemy spawner. Let's call it start area, and let's add another sprite over here. Let's have the same look. Let's call it end area. Oops, no, this one. Let's call it as end area. Okay, now we also need to add the enemy, so we'll just have here the enemy, which is this one for me. Let's rename it as enemy, and we'll need the bullet which the tower will be shooting. So we'll just have another sprite, and let's keep it outside like what we said before. Let's call this as bullet. Now for building the tower and for building the tower I'm gonna have a button, and to start the next level I'm also gonna have a button. So what I'm gonna really do is, I think this grid is not really gonna work. As you can see, it's fine, at least. Yeah, we'll figure it out in a bit. What I'm really gonna do is now we'll add a button. So we'll just have our button here. Let's add a button, which is this one. Let's call it ready button. Let's just have the spawning area start from here, so we have our stuff written here. Let's add another button, and we'll call this build. This will have the text of build tower, build button. Okay, so the snapping to grid, I don't think we need to snap to grid anymore. We got our design. Now we have two buttons, and we'll have some text areas, which is it really shows how many lives left. Let's say lives X. Let's increase the font a bit. Let's see, we have it as 18. Let's rename it. Let's have the functional name of it as lives tb. Another one over here, which will be money, how much gold or how much currency we have. Let's just have the triple X, so we'd know what know if the size is proper to display the amount of money. Yeah, that would do it. And we'll have the last one as how much enemies left in this wave. It's gonna be wave based. The game is gonna be by waves, so I don't think we'd have more than 2 digits waves. So let's just have double X. Yeah, and I think this is smaller. Let's have as 22. Let's make it uniform. Yeah, okay. Now There's a couple of stuff we need to actually, this is a one object now, as you can see, because we copy pasted it. The thing is, we need to create or to add behaviors to our objects. Behaviors are like ready-made functions that will help us to develop our games. In for whatever game you have, there's a lot of behaviors. So let's now take our behaviors, that's what we really need. Let's add a behavior called solid for this, and we'll be needing this to enable to implement the pathfinding method of this game. So as you can see, we added the solid to this object, and for the tower we'll be adding the turret behavior, which is basically a tower behavior. And for the bullet, as you can see, it's a small bullet over here. That's not an effect, sorry, a behavior, which we have a bullet behavior. And let's add a pathfinding behavior for our enemy, which is this one. Yep. Hopefully I haven't forgot any of the behaviors that we need, but for now I think we're done from the behaviors. Let's just take off the margins. By the way, I hate having margins, there's no need for them. So let's go to our event sheet, and as we said before in the last video, the event sheets are basically where all the game logic is running there. So in this event sheet we'll be just having everything running in the game, and even if we've got global variables, we'll be having them over here. So we've got, for example, many commands we can have. We'll be running through them right now. Okay, let's start by adding our global variables. We'll be needing this variable, let's call it total enemies, which will show us how many enemies we have in this level. Actually, the maximum number of enemies we would have in this level. So let's just keep it for 10 for now. Add another global variable. We'll just have a variable called current enemies, where we'll be using to know how many enemies we have at the moment in the level. Let's have something called current wave. Well, let's call it wave number 0. Sorry about this. And let's call this for the money. What should we call it? Let's call it currency. And let's add a global variable which we'll call timer, and I'll explain why do we need a timer. We'll have it with a -1. Actually, we haven't fixed the currency issue. Let's have as a 50 currency as a start. We need another global variable which will be lives. The last one will be a boolean. Actually, we can't really have a boolean, so we'll just have it as a number, and we'll just work with it as a boolean. Let's have this called is building tower, and we'll have as it's always false. We're not building any towers yet. Okay. Now I'll be starting with the logic of creating a tower, which is the really first simple stuff. Let's call it, we'll have a event group. It's just for organizations. Groups are for organizing stuff. Let's call it tower building logic. I'll just do this one more time. I right clicked, pressed on the add group. Now inside this you can just do right click, add sub event, or simply you can press the S button, which I currently did. Now we're gonna go to the system, which basically have the commands of whatever is happening inside the game. Let's compare a variable which we created actually before having the system. Let's go for the build button, and on clicked, when this button is clicked, we'll be having another sub event that is subbed not from the tower building but from the build button itself. So basically the commands below it will not be checked unless the button is clicked. It's like a chained conditions, like if else, that's how it goes if we're talking about programming. So let's go to the system, let's compare a variable. If we got enough money, which is the currency we have, is greater or greater or equal, actually if it's greater or equal to 20, let's say, which is the cost of the tower, and let's add another sub event, and it's actually not another sub event, it's another two events. Will fix it as is building a tower. Let's check, is building a tower is equal to 0. If we're not building a tower right now, it's not a sub event. I just dragged it and dropped it inside the other sub event we had. We'll do system, we'll create a new object, which create a new object, this one. We'll click which object we want, which is a basic tower. The layer of, we have it as layer 1, play area, and from this, yeah, let's just have an OK click. I forgot adding something, which if you go to the project here, right click, insert a new object, we'll be adding a mouse, which is our mouse. As you can see, added mouse, the object is available in the entire project in, yeah, now it's ready. So let's just edit this by double clicking it. You can click, you can see here mouse.x, oops, sorry. We'll have the mouse X here and mouse Y over here. So we'll be creating the object in the mouse.1 and we'll be setting the is building tower set value is building tower as 1. Now let me add another comment here, which we want to snap, having the towers being snapped on the grid. So let's just always set the tower currently being built to snap onto grid. Yeah. So let's just add an event for this group. We'll go to the basic tower. For doing that, we need to add a couple of instance variables. Instance variables are actually variables for the object itself, where you can have, for example, just imagine this basic tower is a class and it has internal variables and we need to set them or we need to add them. That's how we add internal variables. We just go, let me just show you the steps again. You click on the object, instance variables, add. So basically we need, for now, I'll be needing a boolean. Let's call it currently is being built. Yeah, let's have it as false. Actually, we need to have it as true. As soon as we create an object, it's being built. So yeah, when an object is created, it's gonna be being built. So we'll have it as true. So we'll be able to move it. Now, let's add the event I wanted to add for basic tower. Let's check is instance variable set. If it's float, is being built. If it's being built, let's just have this, oops, under it. If it's being built, let's have our basic tower. Let's set its position. Set position, here it is. I'm gonna write a small function here, which is mouse.x over 64 multiplied by 64 round mouse.y 64 multiplied by 64. Okay. What's the size of our tower? 64 by 64, yeah. That would do. And our grid is 64 by 64. Yeah, that would perfectly do. But I need to check something. Show grid. Yeah, we won't be able to snap it outside of the grid. That's what we really wanted. Okay. Now we need to create the logic of placing the tower. Before, I always like to add a comment before creating an event. So placing the tower in the correct position, and actually we need to check, and checking that it's not overlapping another object, another tower basically. So let's add a sub event which will click S. We'll be checking the mouse click now. On click, left button if it's clicked, and add another condition. Right clicking, we'll do by right click, add another condition. Mouse will have our cursor is over our grid background. Another condition, and if our basic tower is overlapping another object, which is a basic tower. Now you can't really have a false value for this, but Construct2 made a really clever thing which you can click on the condition, right click, and you have invert. So as you can see, there's a cross now, so it's not overlapping another basic tower. We have one last condition. Our tower should be floating in order to be able to move it around, right? So is being built. Now let's save this, add an action which will set our when it's the first thing we'll be doing, we'll set a value to our, okay, no, let's set boolean, which is being built. It's not being built anymore. Let's subtract 30 currency from our money currency. Oh, actually there's subtract from our currency. We'll be subtracting 30, and we'll be fixing set value is building tower. We'll be setting it to 1, so we're not building anymore. Sorry, we'll be setting it to 0 because we're not building anymore, right? There's one more thing we need to add in this logic, which is, if we thought about creating a tower, then we thought we don't want to build the tower anymore. We'll have an ability to be able to cancel it. So let's add one more thing, which will be on clicking right click, and another condition, if the tower is floating, which is the tower is being built, still being built, hasn't been built yet, we'll be destroying it, which is basic tower. Double click this, destroy, and system is building tower is false, which is 0. Set value of is building tower will be 0. I'll be adding a comment, and we'll be testing what happened with us for now. Cancel building command. No, I'm adding a global variable, not a comment. Cancel building command. One more thing we got to do is, as you can see, we haven't set the lives and money stuff and enemies. We got to do one more thing, which is, let's have an event system. On every tick we'll add an action. Oh, we haven't named those. Okay, let's just start naming them. We have this let's call it money text block, and this is enemies text block. Okay, let's go back to this action. Now money text block set text, we'll have it as money plus we got a global variable which is called currency. Actually it's not a plus here, it's an and currency. And our lives will be the same thing, set text lives and lives. The last one is we'll have the enemies text block, set text, which is enemies left and current enemies. Now let's run the game and check how it's working now. As you can see, if we press right click, build tower, we can build a tower, we can build another tower, but actually, yeah, I need to fix something here. Let's go back to this logic. It's taking 30, but actually we're checking on 20, so let's just subtract 20 here. Okay, build tower, we have our first tower, let's build another tower. We haven't refreshed, this sometimes happens. You can see now we cannot build anymore. Ready is not working yet, so we got no enemies left. Lives is 20. Yeah, so till now everything looks nice. Let's move those a bit here. Till now everything's looking nice. Let's check again. Yeah, we cannot really build outside the grid, by the way, because it's not overlapping. So now we got this logic working. Now let's go to the logic of creating the timer, which is I will let you it's for starting the event of the game itself. Let's just have this over this one, which is it's something global that will be working all the time. It's not related to any of those. Let's add a group, call it timer logic, which will be adding sub event here. If the ready button is clicked, unclicked, yeah, it's not, it's clicked. That's what we'll be doing now. We'll add a sub event for this. It will be system. Okay, system will be comparing a value. Actually we'll be comparing two values, which is enemy dot count. Okay, let's compare two values. The first value is enemy dot count. If it's equal to 1, now if the enemies count equal 1, which we actually have already one enemy here, as you can see, so if it's 1, we'll be doing something, which will be setting the system to set the timer, which is set value of our timer to 0, and it will set the current enemies to 0 also. And one more thing, which will be adding to the wave number 1. Add to wave number 1. So basically it's starting a new wave. Now for the timer logic we'll be adding on something else, which is system. Every 1 second And if the timer, we'll be checking something else, which is compare value. If the timer is greater or equal than 0, it's actually the same one, so if you drag it, let's delete this one, we'll be having the system to add 1 to the timer. Why we're doing this? It's when you click on the start, it will be adding this timer, which will be starting our process of spawning. Other than that, we will not be spawning. After we've done from spawning the enemy, from the timer logic, we'll create a new group of enemy spawning logic and movement logic, which will be starting as adding a sub event enemy on created, which is found on miscellaneous. We'll have our enemy, and for that I just forgot that we need to add an instance, which is the hit points or health points of our enemy, which is 50. Okay, we can't have spaces, so the health points are 50 on created. We'll be setting our health points for something, which is, we'll set value of the health points, sorry, not here, it's the enemy. We're setting the value to enemy dot health points plus current, it's wave number multiplied by 5, and when it's spawned it will find the path, which from the start area till the end area, which is end x and end y. Let's just have a comment for this, which is gives the enemy health depending on the current level, current wave, and starting the path finding method. Okay, now let's start spawning our enemies. So if our system, if our timer is greater than greater or equal, let's make it for 0, we'll have a sub event for this one, which is by clicking S system on every 1 second, and if if our current enemies, let's compare our current enemies is less than the total number of our enemies, which is total enemies. Yeah, what we will be doing here is adding to the system, we'll be adding a value to our current enemies by 1, and we'll be clicking on the start area, where our enemies will start spawning, spawn another object, which will be spawning an enemy on the layer 1 image point. I'll be explaining this later on in this video tutorial series. So this spawns enemy every logic. Let's just add a comment for this. Spawn enemy every 1 second. Every 1 second, not seconds. Now we found the path, we need our object to start moving. So let's just add a comment. Okay, start moving. Enemies will start enemies movement. So let's add a sub event. We'll be clicking on enemies. On path found, we'll make our enemy move along the path, which is move along the path. I think we're done here. No, we need one more thing, which is we'll be adding our lives logic also here. How we'll be removing our lives. So removing lives if the enemy completes the path. So we'll be adding an event over here. Now enemy on there's a command that is called, it's actually on path arrived, yeah. So on arrived, we'll be destroying the enemy, which is it reached the destination, and we'll be reducing our lives by 1. Subtract our lives from 1, which will be subtract lives by 1. Okay, I think we need to just paste another object here, which will be placed over here, so we'll make our pathfinding more clear. Other than that, I doubt the pathfinding will be really clear for you guys. So let's just refresh. Yeah, let's run the game now. I'm testing on the web browser for now, because the result on the web browser on the Windows 8 is all the same. So if you click ready now, enemies will start spawning and moving along the path. And when they leave out, we're losing a live. There's an issue with the enemies left. I think we need to check it out now. Well, let's click another ready. It will start spawning the other level, etc. Well, let me check the current enemies. There's an issue with this. Maybe is it too small? Let's just make sure if it's working like this now. Let's refresh it. Yeah, it was small. Now, as I told you, we cannot build outside the grid. So if you click ready, you can see enemies left 1, 2, 3. We haven't added the functionality of the tower yet. Now we're done from the enemy spawning and movement logic. We got one last thing, which is making our towers attack. So let's create a new group, towers logic, towers attack logic. Now let's add a sub event, which is having our basic tower. Now let's check this is being built. If it's being built, yeah. Actually, if it's not being built, yeah, we need to add the target, acquire target. Let's add object to target, which is the enemy. Done. So if it's not being built, add the target. If it's being built, do nothing. On a basic tower, on shoot, we'll select our basic tower. We'll spawn another object above it, which is our bullet. Have it on layer 1, image point 1. We got one more. We'll have this as bullet. Now, if our bullet collides with the enemy, which is on collision with another object, we'll have our enemy. Let's subtract from health points bullet. Okay, before doing that, let me just add an instance variable for this bullet. Damage, we'll have it as 15. On it's actually we'll have our bullet destroyed. Let's destroy our bullet, and another one, which is the enemy. Subtract from health points bullet dot damage. Yep. One last thing, which will be checking if our enemy having its hit points less than 0 or equal to 0, equal less than or equal to 0, we'll be doing two stuff. Which first will be destroying the object. Second of all, we'll be adding some currency for us. So add to our currency. Let's find something out. Will be 2 multiply to actually 3 multiply equal to the wave number. Let's save. Let's check if this worked out. We have one. Build another tower here. Ready. Okay. Now everything's basically working, but we need to tweak it a bit. As you can see, nothing is able to attack. Let's tweak this by going back to our to our tower. Let's fix the rotation speed. Let's change the target mode to the nearest, and let's have the predictive aim, which predicts where the object will go. And let's increase the speed of our projectile. So for example, let's have it as 600. Now if we run the game again, I think this should do it. Build another tower. We have it is ready here. Okay, somewhat better. Okay, we haven't been able to kill anything. Let's just have our projectile to 1200, just to make sure that the logic of the attack is really working. We'll have one here and one here. Actually, let's increase the range also. We'll have it at 600. We'll have one here, another tower here, ready. Actually, I haven't refreshed. Looks like our object is really small. Let's just have the last thing, which increases our object size. Hopefully this will work out. Ready. Okay, we haven't refreshed. I don't know what's actually happening. Okay, I just fixed a couple of parameters. Now it should be working. Let's just have a refresh here with another tower here. Okay, now we're restoring. We have increased our gold, or currency actually, our money. We just need to have some balancing now, but this worked. Okay, now let's just export it to Windows 8 and check out that it's working properly in Windows 8. Export. Let's check. Video tutorial series, projects, video 2 version 2. Export. Okay, open file destination. Let's add this, which is it's actually capital N. Okay, now it's working. Yeah. So I think that's all for now. And if you got any questions, you can contact me on my email, which I'll be adding on the video below. That's basically everything we're gonna have in this video. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll be discussing another new game concept in the following video. Thanks a lot.